Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for
Hi.
today's giveaway. We just lost someone. For today's giveaway and AMA, courtesy of Reddit's cryptocurrency subreddit. Of course, first, thank you so much to the mods for letting us do this and giving us an opportunity to talk to folks about DeSci and some of the new and exciting projects that are happening in this space. And of course, thank you for tuning in to see what we have to talk about. I hope you'll find this interesting and something that kind of chew on the next couple of days as you kind of think about the possibilities that blockchain offers for the scientific process. So I guess just to get right into it, for folks who are new, sorry, I gotta let someone in here real quick. There we go. So we have representatives here from a couple different DeSci projects. They're each going to get a chance to talk about their project and why it's special. And then after that, we'll open it up to questions for folks. So we have Delta here from Gridcoin. We have Wolf68 here from Curecoin, and we have Kevin Wad from Etica. So for folks who are new to the crypto space or new to DeSci, let's kind of get some basics. So what is DeSci? Why is it important? I think it's easy to say that the scientific process, the scientific method, is maybe the most important or the most influential invention that humans have ever come up with, right? I don't think that's an overstatement. It's the only tool that we've ever developed that allows us to overcome our cognitive biases, the kind of weaknesses in human thought that we're all just gifted as virtue of being alive. And it's enabled us to have a higher quality of life, to live longer, to answer some of our biggest questions, and to push society and human existence to a better place. But the scientific process, the method, has not changed since it's been developed. It's really the same thing we've been doing since the development of the process. But what has changed is the infrastructure that we use to produce and develop science, but it hasn't changed in long enough. It hasn't changed essentially since the printing press. And that creates a number of problems for the development of science. And so DeSci is using new technology like blockchain, like DLT, like DAG, to do science differently, to kind of push this frontier of science we need so we can develop the disease cures and other things that we're going to need going forward to continue the human experiment. The current infrastructure for scientific development kind of has an over-reliance on intellectual property and funding models which create moral hazard and which are not efficient. And one of the ways that this works is science becomes very siloed. It becomes something you need a lot of money to access, you need a lot of resources to access, you need a lot of funding to access. And not only is that inefficient, not only are we losing scientific talent and the abilities of people who are locked out of the scientific system, but we're losing public trust in the scientific process because science is siloed off and it's done by researchers in some faraway place, and because those researchers tend to have to kind of be funded by big pharma or large corporations or what have you, the public is no longer involved in the production of science, and they don't trust the results of science when it's completed. And so that's kind of bridging a little bit into each of the groups giving their presentation here. That's the goal of the Science Commons Initiative. We're a nonprofit organization. Our 501c3 status is pending, but our goal is to help rebuild the bridge of trust and participation between the public and the scientific process. And we recognize that DeSci and Web3 and these new emerging technologies are going to be one of the most important things for doing that. We need people to be able to trust medicine, right? We need people to be able to trust climate science. And the way that we do that is not by just telling them that they're wrong and yelling at them. The way that we do that is we involve people in the scientific process. We make science accessible to them. And each of the projects that are represented here today are in their own way working on that. Maybe that's not their stated goal, but that's one of the reasons we want to spotlight them, is they're engaging the public in the scientific process. Going forward in the future, science needs to be more accessible, needs to be more democratic, it needs to be more efficient, and so that's what we're here to talk about today. And I think Sci's role in particular is important because we're in the DeSci space, we're in the blockchain world, but we're a nonprofit. We're not here to sell a token. We're not here to tell you about the latest blockchain tech, right? We're here to develop scientific tools. And I think that's an important thing to have. So I guess just to get things started off, Delta, if you want to talk about Gridcoin, I think your coin has probably been around the longest of all of these. Talk about what you do and why it's important.
Yeah, before I start, firstly, I'd like to say without the SCI, the Stones Commons Initiative, we probably wouldn't be all together here today, especially giving a giveaway on r/cryptocurrency as well. So I just want to commend the SCI on what they're doing and what they're going to be doing coming this year and into the years into the future. And in terms of Gridcoin, Gridcoin's been around for a very long time, and I'm not founder of Gridcoin, not anything. I'm just a representative of Gridcoin. I've been in the community for a very long time. I'm known pretty much almost everywhere within the community, and I watched Gridcoin go through a lot of changes and a lot of interesting developments too. Gridcoin is a proof-of-stake cryptocurrency. And so basically you have to have Gridcoin in order to make more Gridcoin, and you need to hold Gridcoin to stake the Gridcoin. And Gridcoin, its aim is to reward volunteer scientific computing. So for those that don't know what volunteer scientific computing is, and it will relate to a lot of the other projects that we'll talk about today as well. It's basically where you on your regular computer or computers will grab scientific work from maybe a scientific project that's, I don't know, running protein folding, for example. And your computer will go through a whole bunch of mathematical calculations to try and fit that protein into the mold of the molecule the best it possibly can. And then once it tries its best, it'll send those results back to the server, and then the whole process starts again. And this method of doing science is a form of citizen science. And so it's basically engaging everyday people to use their computers for something good. And Gridcoin, the protocol that underpins Gridcoin, rewards that. So on top of the proof of stake protocol of Gridcoin, we have what's called proof of research. And in order to claim proof of research, you need to use the BOINC software. It's the Berkeley Open Infrastructure for Network Computing. And by having access to BOINC, you have access to a wide range of projects that do all sorts of different science, anything from maths to biology, astronomy, even computer science. And I know that there's been some really interesting developments in machine learning and also genetic algorithms over the history of BOINC as well. And by using BOINC, you'll actively be participating in volunteer computing. And based off of your contributions to the projects that are whitelisted on the Gridcoin blockchain, you will receive rewards for basically doing that work. And that's what's called proof of research. Going a bit more in depth into the protocols of Gridcoin, it's changed quite a bit over the years. Originally, at the very, very beginning, Gridcoin was a proof of work currency, and it was quickly hard forked to a proof of stake cryptocurrency because the community thought, and the Gridcoin community thought and voted on the fact that proof of work state of Gridcoin is inadequate because we're wasting computational power on hashes rather than science. So the move from proof to proof of stake meant that we can do more science and less useless calculations such as hashes. And then over the years, we've had various small protocol changes, but only very recently, we've had a big protocol change called manual reward claim, which means that you no longer have to have a significant amount of Gridcoin in order to earn more Gridcoin from both proof of stake and proof of work. You can proof of research. So you can basically hop on Gridcoin. All you need is literally probably less than 1 Gridcoin to start with. To create what's called a beacon. And then once you have the beacon, you can start computing with BOINC. And then once you start computing with BOINC and earning rewards, you can then do what's called an MRC transaction. And it will basically claim the research rewards for you with a very small fee. And that there's protocol Gridcoin, and some of the stuff that Gridcoin has been responsible for helping with is developing an antiviral, I think it was antiviral medication for COVID-19. That was a result of, I think it was a mixture of open pandemics with World Community Grid and Rosetta at Home, I believe. And for those of you that might actually know, if you've ever heard of SETI at Home, that's an ancient project that basically meant the start of BOINC. And that was the project that you could basically search for aliens with. It filtered through astronomical noise trying to search for alien life. And that's where a lot of people came into BOINC. And other things that Gridcoin has contributed to, there's been so many papers that have come out of a lot of math projects. There's been quite a few, I think, biology projects that have released quite a few papers as well that have been using, that Gridcoin has basically encouraged computing power to develop those papers and the research for those papers. And there's still so much more coming. And there's a whole bunch of projects here as well. So if you're ever interested in volunteering your computing power, hop on BOINC and take a look. And I know that the other projects here today that are in the call will also tell you how you can contribute your computing power to other projects as well. So I think I pretty much covered it all there, I think, from Gridcoin.
Actually, I think that's a great summary, Delta. Thank you, and a great segue to talk about Curecoin, which is another volunteer computing project. Before we get into Curecoin, I just wanted to say real quick, number one, please do subscribe to our newsletter, follow us on Twitter or Facebook so you can get updates about new exciting DeSci projects that are happening and our work that we're doing. And then also, if you want to claim any of the coins in the giveaway, please do make a comment on Reddit. We don't see the comments on YouTube. So just make a comment on Reddit with your address. There's instructions in the post for how to get an address. So I'll hand this over to Curecoin, talk a little bit about what you do and why you're important.
Yeah, hello. So my name is Ivan Tuma. I've been with Curecoin since 2013 during the beta test phase. And we've been around for quite a while. Our focus has been to improve the output of the Folding at Home network. For those who don't know, the Folding at Home network was developed by Stanford University. It was put out in the year 2000, so it's got a long legacy. We're a little bit more focused on just the Folding at Home project. There's always a roadmap plan to add other DCNs, but that's been our focus ever since our founding. So Curecoin wanted to create an additional incentivization process for people, citizen scientists, doing work for Folding at Home. Until we came along, I think the only other reward system was EVGA's EVGA Bucks, which was a credit system that would allow you to earn credits on EVGA's company store. And I think it's been deprecated since like early 2022 or 2021. So there's been other crypto projects that have come along since, obviously, that have also incentivized Folding at Home research. So at one point, Curecoin had over 50% of the Folding at Home network with our citizen scientist contributors working through our system, through our team to contribute to Folding at Home research. And there's been, I think there's 342 scientific papers that have come out of Folding at Home since its founding. Since we've been a part of the project, I think you can probably put the count over 200. So we've been a part of that research. I can't say that we take credit for everything because obviously there are tons. I mean, I think we had Folding at Home did reach over like 1 million contributors at one point during the COVID, the height of the COVID crisis. Folding at Home produces mostly what they're concerned with is finding intermediate states within the proteins that they research to try to find targets for drug compounds, not necessarily directly drug compounds themselves, but areas that drug compounds can fit along the protein chain as it folds into its final conformation state. But the beauty of folding at home is you don't have to really know about all that. All you do is set up the client on your computer, join the Curecoin team, set up an account with the Curecoin network, and you can contribute and earn Curecoins at the same time. I think Folding at Home was the first to produce a fully articulated model of the coronavirus, the SARS-CoV-2, not the entire virus, but specifically the spike protein. So that's been used throughout the scientific community to help them try to develop antivirals and preventative treatments. And going forward, I should probably mention that Curecoin has a separate charity entity called the Curecoin Project. Not just Curecoin LLC is the parent company. That was kind of established to create a cloud folding service for people who don't have high-end computers who want to contribute. They can set up an account and fold through Curecoin LLC, and we have systems set up that can do that folding for you and still reward you with Curecoins. But we also set up the charity division. I think we've donated close to $50,000 to 40 different charities since we started. Given market conditions, I wish we could do a lot more. So those come from donated Curecoins to the community. And going forward, in the immediate future, within 2023, there's probably going to be a new folding pool, which is currently under cryptobullionpools.com, which is the distribution mechanism for the coins. So all the coins that you earn through Curecoin right now are solely earned through either folding proteins or proof of stake. Proof of stake rewards right now are fairly generous. The plan is to eventually bring that down, but they were generous to create an environment where people would hodl a little bit more than just earning their Curecoin and selling them on the market to support their folding rigs. And we've got a roadmap that goes out much further, but I'm not going to cover that in this presentation. I think that's it for Curecoin.
All right, thank you so much, Ivan. And then our final project here, we have Etica, which is a fairly new project, and it's exciting that we get to spotlight something so new. So take it away, Kevin.
Thank you for Science Community Initiative for the invite. So first thing also I want to say that Etica, I'm just a contributor to Etica. It's a truly community-driven project. And so in 2019, I published a white paper, and it was submitted to the Satoshi Nakamoto email list. And since then, the white paper is on the website. And what is happening now is the community is growing, at a steady pace. And it's truly a community-driven project. So what Etica is, it's about decentralizing science. And you mentioned intellectual property. And I think this is very important because I think that in the next years, we will see that intellectual property will become the main subject in a lot of spaces, and especially in science and blockchain. So if we take, for instance, let's take the example of AI, because right now this is very trendy and everybody's seeing that. So what we see with AI is a new technology that is changing the world. But what people will realize, I think, with time is that it truly changes a lot of things regarding intellectual property, because it's like AI, it uses some data, and all of this data is like a common knowledge of humanity. and this is every AI needs a model, so it needs data, and all this data, there is no intellectual property in this data. So what is happening is we have this new robots, this new technology that is using this data free of intellectual property to propose new services to the people. But people don't realize that when they use AI, they use a new kind of relationship when it comes to intellectual property. Because if you try to use the new system of AI with intellectual property on top of it, you see that it doesn't work, because every time you will want to make a prompt, you would have to ask, okay, who invented this technique? Can I make it? Can I not make it? Who do I have to pay? So I think that we are just at the beginning of a new revolution of science, and intellectual property is going to be completely, I think, we need to think about a new model when it comes to that. And basically, what Etica is a cryptocurrency that proposes a system to make open source medical research without intellectual property. So, to my knowledge, I think this is like the very first cryptocurrency that is doing that. And I think that in the coming years, it will become extremely important to have this for society and for humanity at large. So the way it works is on the protocol, it issues a currency that is Etica ETI, and this currency finances researchers. So also a very important fact that people that are not familiar with the current medical research system need to know is that currently, if you are a researcher and you want to make a contribution, you spend a lot of time trying to study, trying to find something, and when you want to publish, okay, so let's say you have spent like 2 months or 3 months searching for something. In the current system, when you want to publish what you have done, not only you are not paid, but like you have to pay thousands of dollars just to publish. So there is a huge problem, I think, today with the current system of intellectual property and the way that the researchers, especially the researcher that want to just make a small contribution, not take part in a whole like research system that is financed during 2 years or something like that. I'm talking truly working together in an open source way. If you're a researcher today that wants to do that, the current system is like very, very complicated, to say the least. And with Etica, what we try to do is to create a new system that will be, for the next generation, I think, of research. That's it.
Excellent, Kevin. Thank you. And I think your points about AI are really interesting, and I want to circle back to that because I think it does totally change the way that we interact with intellectual property. So those are the projects that we have representing us here today. If you have questions, you want to ask them either about their project or about their views on the science, please do comment them on Reddit, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. First thing I kind of want to just question to throw out there is for Kevin specifically, because so both Gridcoin and Curecoin are proof of stake projects, and I think that there is a conception in the crypto community that proof of stake is the future, and this is the way we should always be doing it. People think that proof of work is wasteful. It's a very heated debate. So I wanted to kind of give you a chance to talk about why you chose proof of work as the way to go forward, and why that's important for your distribution mechanism or what have you.
Yes, definitely. The reason for proof of work is because I think Etica is a neutral protocol. The same way Bitcoin and Monero are neutral protocols, this is what Etica is. So I think in order to achieve a neutral protocol right now, and with all the respect to proof of stake, I think that the only way that is truly proven right now is proof of work. And I think it is going to remain this way. I don't truly believe in proof of stake as far as I'm concerned. But what proof of work offers is the neutrality of the protocol, because it's in order to change the protocol, you need to have a computing power that is at least 51% of the network, and this is why it's very secure, the network, and this is what we have seen with Bitcoin. And the moment Ethereum went to proof of stake, we have seen the regulators and everyone coming and saying, well, we want to change this, and now we see that the majority of the blocks on the Ethereum, they are compliant with anything that the regulators want, So this is the first thing, I think it's for neutrality of the protocol. And the trade-off is, of course, that it has some footprints, when it comes to climate change and all of this. But I think if the use case of the cryptocurrency is worth it, I think it's okay, And for Bitcoin and Monero, the price of this is what is having a currency that is free of like inflation, And I think this value for the people is enough to explain, to have a kind of footprint. And for Etica, what it can offer to society is a new system to make open source medical research, meaning that anything that is done within the Etica protocol is free of intellectual property. This means that anyone can go in the protocol, see the results, see the open source research, and use all the results right away. Like there is no patent, there's no delay of patent, anything like this. Everything is usable. So what will happen, I think, with the time is that we will see a separation between the research and the use and the commercialization of the research. And I think that we'll see different actors that will plug into the system, use the results to produce something and commercialize it, but without intellectual property. And what this means is that there is a free competition to use the results, as opposed to the current system where you have someone that says, okay, I want to price this drug this price, and for the next 10 years,
That's a great answer, Kevin, and thank you for bringing up kind of this separation between the production of the science and the commercialization of the end product, because I think that's something that each of these projects here today are working on in different ways. And I guess I'll hand it over to Delta. One, if you can talk a little bit about Gridcoin's transition, because Gridcoin was originally proof of work, right, for initial distribution, and then switched over to proof of stake. So if you could talk about kind of that transition and how that happened, and then talk about more generally, as Kevin was kind of leaning into, open sourcing the production of science in general and the scientific process, and either what you see Gridcoin's role in that being, or just in general, where is that going? Why do you think it's important, and what do you see in the future?
Yeah, so I personally think that the kind of economics of the blockchain of Gridcoin are actually quite interesting, and the history of it is really, really interesting. So as I alluded to earlier, Gridcoin did actually start out as a proof of work currency, but people voted, and we do have a voting mechanism on the Gridcoin blockchain. People voted to move to a proof of stake style currency. And that old proof of work kind of cryptocurrency is now called the Gridcoin Classic. So that is pretty much non-existent by now. And we moved to proof of stake. Now, what happened with proof of stake is we used, I think, just a standard percent interest rate for proof of stake. So for example, you'd be earning 5% per annum or something. On average, if you staked your Gridcoin on the blockchain. And the problem with that was it didn't incentivize people to keep their coins online and keep their wallets open so that they could ensure the security of the network. Because of the way that the interest actually accrued, it accrued offline, which was kind of a bit silly. So we moved to what's called constant block rewards, which means that every block now will produce at least 10 Gridcoin. So every block that gets staked will produce 10 Gridcoin, and you, the staker, will receive 10 Gridcoin if you do stake that block. And the more Gridcoin you have, the more staking frequency you'll get. And with the addition of that, the network difficulty went up massively. We had so much more participation of stakers and everything, and Gridcoin went from having semi-frequent forks to literally forks are now non-existent in the network at all. And I think that was a game-changing change of protocol. And from here on in, we now have manual reward claim as well, which is basically a one-click, you get paid for your research sort of deal. And in terms of how Gridcoin helps the community, Gridcoin encourages a lot of people to contribute their computers to scientific work. I actually found BOINC without knowing Gridcoin. So I actually discovered BOINC first before knowing Gridcoin. And as a result of learning about Gridcoin and engaging in the community, I'm more encouraged to crunch and actually do scientific work and much more now that I'm getting paid and I'm in a community that's flourishing and growing by the day. And it really helps the scientific projects, because I don't think if Gridcoin wasn't here, we wouldn't have as much computational power within the BOINC community. And I don't think we would have had as big of an uproar during the COVID pandemic, where we saw tens of thousands of users coming on and joining BOINC and signing up to the projects that were crunching proteins for COVID-19. And Gridcoin does give a lot back to the community as well. It helps out various BOINC projects. That could be in a number of ways. I know that various BOINC projects have donation links, so you can actually send them Gridcoin and donate to them. And not only that, but Gridcoin also attracts a lot of talent as well. I know that I probably wouldn't have been volunteering my software development skills to MLC at Home, which is one of the projects on BOINC that does machine learning. I probably wouldn't have contributed to that if I wasn't a part of Gridcoin, purely because back in the day when I started BOINC, I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then it kind of slowly faded away until I kind of figured out, oh, Gridcoin, I can actually get paid for this. I can get rewarded for my research that I do with my computer. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm sticking with this now. We see a lot of that in the BOINC community and also in just the decentralized computing community as well. People will hop on for the novelty of it, and then they'll kind of fade away and kind of forget about it, and we'll maintain probably about a couple percentage points. That's pretty much what happened with SETI at Home too. Back in the early days of BOINC, people all hopped on because of SETI at Home. Wow, I can search for aliens with my computer, and it has a cool screensaver. Back when screensavers were actually cool. And now people are like, okay, we've done that. What's the next big thing? So I think Gridcoin it plays a very important role of being able to incentivize that computing power and get more people involved and bring more computing power to these projects that are researching things that we can use in our everyday life.
Thank you, Delta, for that. And I guess pivot over to Curecoin. It sounds like you guys had a proof of stake to proof of work, or proof of work to proof of stake transition as well. And if you want to talk a little bit about the role that Curecoin and Folding at Home play in foundational science, in the sense that you're working on projects that don't have a particular product in mind, but that are and as a result kind of are difficult to fund. If you want to talk a little bit about the role that volunteer computing aspect plays in that, or whatever you'd like to talk about, just go for it.
Yeah, so going over to the SHA-256 mining layer that we had up until the end of 2018, start of 2019, that's how Curecoin started. 20% of the distributions were kind of allocated to SHA miners or proof of stake, and proof of stake was, I believe, around 4% at that time per annum. In 2019, we switched to a pure proof of stake model. The proof of stake rewards there are kind of, depending on your system, your network setup, can hover anywhere from 4.5% to over 9%, depending how fast your system is. Again, like I say, that's very generous, and future versions will probably curtail that somewhat. But for the time being, we want people to hold on to their coins instead of just putting them on the market and trying to fund their systems that way. as far as overall scientific contributions, you can kind of look at, first of all, you're building a community, right? You're bringing more people in, maybe those who didn't have any incentive to do philanthropic work before, but now they kind of have some additional little spur in their side to tell them, hey, you're doing good, and you're going to get compensated for it in some way as well. There's the community aspect of it is really important, and I think the friendships that you gain through participating in these projects are kind of priceless, because you're getting like-minded people together with one mission, and it can't be sort of undersold what this brings to the future of humanity. You've got people from Australia, you've got folks from Sweden, the United States, Italy, Belgium, Southeast Asia, Latin America, is all working together on the same goal, and there really can't be anything more unifying than that. No matter which of these projects you're talking about, they all kind of bring to the table the same dynamic.
I think that's a really interesting point about I mean, science is, we're here to talk about science, but it's not just science, right? It's also the community that you foster in the process of developing science. I think it's such an interesting point. I'm gonna totally change gears here for a bit. We have one more kind of pre-planned discussion topic, and then we'll start going to the AMA on Reddit. I wanted to talk briefly, and anyone can jump in if you have anything you want to say on this topic about waste heat. Because as we move to a future where we're relying more on renewables, we're relying more on power being given to the grid that isn't on demand. It's something that it's going to be more dependent on weather or what have you. There's a lot of opportunity to both reuse waste heat from mining and crunching, and also to find ways to sink when we have extra electricity capacity, find places to sink it into. And I think that volunteer computing is really a place that can happen. When we have extra capacity, we shouldn't be just throwing that energy into the ground. We should be putting it somewhere useful. And it also gives us a way to repurpose old technology. E-waste is a huge issue, and recycling electronics is dirty, and it's messy, and it's expensive, and it is bad for the environment. We should use whatever we can before we get rid of it, and volunteer computing is a great way to do that. I brought a prop for today. This is sea salt. I don't know how well it shows up on the camera, but sea salt
like
I made from the Oregon coast. I just went and took a few buckets of water, and I put it next to my computer fans for a week or two, and eventually turned into salt. So it's just like a very small scale, silly thing you can do with waste heat. But obviously you could, heat a whole apartment complex with point crunching and folding at home if you wanted to. So if anyone wants to jump in on that, go for it.
I mean, I don't know how well people can see the back of my room. I do have a mirror behind me, but I have blurred it. My little study area here is one big kind of like brick box. Currently it's summer here in Australia, so I have all my crunching rigs turned off for volunteer computing at the moment, because I am about to start sweating. But during winter, it's great to have all my computers in here running. I have 1, 2, 3 computers in here, which in winter will usually be crunching Boink. And it gets nice and toasty in here in winter, and I love it. So I don't need to have a little heater in here or anything. But I've heard other people say that they've made like a little water warming system so that they can get warm water rather than hot water by just using their crunching rig. Even like I was surprised to see that you brought a bag of salt, which based off of the camera looks a bit like drugs, but I trust that it is salt. I was actually surprised by that. That's actually pretty cool.
I mean, it's worth mentioning, both for folding at home and for Boink and for Etica as well. These are not might want to mine or crunch these things, you don't need a PhD in computer science. Folding at home is super straightforward to set up. So is Boink. I'm not as familiar with Etica mining, but I know that it's similar to ETH mining. So there's a lot of well documented ways to participate. And so if you wanted to participate in those projects, it's super easy. And especially for those of you, if you live in an area that gets cold during the winter and you rely on electric heating, I want to tell you some interesting thing that it just every time I think about it, it just blows my mind, even though it's not controversial physics. So 1 watt in is 1 watt out. Doesn't matter what you put that watt into. So if you put energy into a space heater or an electric baseboard heater, or you put energy into your blender or your TV or your graphics card on your computer, it's all the same. You get the 100% efficiency in generating heat. So if you are at home and you're in winter and you have electric heat, you may as well be crunching. You may as well be spending electricity on science, because you get science and you get heat out of it, and it would cost you the same as if you were just using your regular electric heater. The efficiency thing gets more complicated and not necessarily true when you get into things like air conditioning and ductless heat pumps and all that kind of stuff. But if you just have electric resistive heat, you could be heating your apartment with that instead of your space heater, and you could be contributing to disease cures, which is pretty cool. So if we have one more person joining here. Sorry, Cygnus, I had you muted. Are you here now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for having me.
No problem. This is Cygnus from Curecoin as well. I just wanted to jump into a couple questions that are on Reddit. I don't know if anyone's seen any interesting ones come up.
Yeah, I was scrolling through a bit. Someone mentioned that for those who do gaming a lot, and this is actually interesting too. Back in the day, with Gridcoin, making me sound old here. Back in the day, we had a lot of gamers come on, because gamers generally have quite high-end computers. Like, they invest in all top-tier graphics cards, CPUs, RAM, you name it. They'll have it, and a lot of gamers are interested in volunteer computing, and I believe that there were a few games that actually implemented volunteer computing within it. I can't remember exactly, but I'm very sure that it was like a space game or something that actually implemented something of their own volunteer computing sort of thing. And someone was asking in the Reddit, like, oh, does it impact gaming performance? And it varies. In my personal experience, if you're just running work on scientific work on your CPU, then it generally won't affect the game, so long as that you have like a decently good CPU. But if you run it on your GPU, personally, I've noticed a few kind of slowdowns here and there, but it's generally not too bad. If you're not playing anything that's super high paced or requires millisecond accuracy, then generally it's fine to run scientific computing on your GPU while you play video games. And along with that comment, there was someone asking, oh, is it safe to do volunteer computing with your computer? And it's kind of like the same as asking, is it safe to do cryptocurrency mining with your computer? It'll run your computer components at 100% pretty much. And with most volunteer computing platforms, you can actually control how much it uses and also which components it uses. And so long as you keep your computer dust-free and cooled adequately, then you should be fine, because most computer components are pretty much made to run at 100%. So for those of you that are a bit worried about crunching on your computers, then there really is no issue. With laptops, I'd be a bit careful with the battery and try not to get the laptop too hot. But other than that, there really is no safety concern over crunching using a computer.
And also, of course, I don't know what the default configuration is for Boink and folding at home, but I know that you can set it to only run when your computer is not in use. So then if you do that, it won't impact performance for gaming or anything else that you're doing. One question we had come up here that is specifically addressed to Kevin, so I guess I'll let you go with that. They said, interested to hear, this is from Mr. Mustache Man, interested to hear any critiques or support for open sourcing scientific research, particularly integrating tokenomics into it. And they mentioned Brian Armstrong's Research Hub which I think is a really fascinating project. What are the merits of tokenizing research as opposed to our traditional top-down approach for funding?
Okay, not sure I understood the question, but here I can go with some things, and you can re-ask the question if it doesn't answer. So what Etica is, it's like a layer one currency. It's truly at the basis of the system, and on top of Etica, we can build a whole economy of decentralized science without intellectual property. So the way I see it is that in the future, I don't know if it will be Etica, but there will be a currency that will organize open source research and that will incentivize open source research and reward people that submit proposals in an open source system. And then all the data, everything is accessible to anyone from the moment it's published, And this creates a new momentum of research, because it incentivizes people to share their results throughout the process of research, meaning that they don't have to hide anything and to make research in secrecy, and then to hope for having intellectual property with a patent, and then a few years later monetize this, because now they can make some research if it is valuable, taking into account the current knowledge on a specific disease. If it is valuable, they can publish it, and then they are going to be rewarded in a matter of days. So it completely changes the momentum. And let's say you are a team that is working on a specific project. So if you are on Etica or a system like that, it means that you can make some research, and you can also benefit from the research of other people. So it removes a lot of duplication of things, because currently, since it is a system of competition, what it means is that you have several teams that compete with each other, and they are doing exactly the same thing, but they hide it because they're not incentivized to share it. So in a decentralized system, instead of having 15 teams competing and hiding what they are doing, you would have 15 teams constantly sharing with each other. So it completely changes the momentum. And I believe when you take this and you add the fact that with new technologies, it means that people, I think we will also have new types of researchers. Because let's take the example of AI again. It's for the first time. Let's imagine what happens when not only you have thousands of people searching together, but you have thousands of people that can benefit from technologies like AI for the first time working together. I don't know what it does, but I think it's much more powerful and potentially much more efficient than any team of 15 people locked in a room that never share anything, because they have 15 experts. And then they say, okay, we have 15 experts. Now we're locked in the room. We work only 15 and for 1 year, and we want to create something. So I think the main thing is that I truly believe that decentralized science is truly underrated right now, especially the blockchain space. And I think that in the next years it will emerge. And because of the potential, again, it's possible to say that potentially we will find cures for a lot of diseases thanks to that system.
Kevin, this is Ivan. I've got a quick question for you. The resulting patents from the research, would those be owned by Etica organization? And if it was owned by Etica, what do you know the governance behind those patents? Would they be under U.S. territory control, or would they be under some international rules? What I'm wondering is, if you look at Folding at Home, they post all their data as open source, but any resulting patents from that they develop kind of fall under the Bayh-Dole Act, which was in the 80s. They had set up a system where universities that create patents have to sell them on the open market now they can sell them to a pharma company, and the pharma company can just sit on them, but that pharma company is obligated to use that patent or lose it after a certain period of time. So I'm just wondering if you've considered any governance behind the patents that Etica would produce.
Okay, thanks for your question. And so what happens is that on Etica, when someone publishes a proposal, it is done under a common license 4. So basically, it's a license that gives up any intellectual property rights. So anything that is posted on Etica protocol, there is no intellectual property, and anybody is able to use it right away and to commercialize the results also right away. So there's absolutely no intellectual property, and this is also a reason why I believe I don't want to use big words, but this is what potentially makes it revolutionary, because there is no intellectual property. So it's a completely new system where there is absolutely no intellectual property. So how it fits in the current system and the legal system, I don't know, because I mean it's a brand new system, and as a brand new system, sometimes it is the current system that adapts eventually to the new system.
Understood. Yeah. So you're not really working under the an organization of a university or institute. It's purely, all the results are purely open source, without going through any middleman. And
Yes,
any
exactly.
patents that result from that would be really the same way. They would be open to anybody to pick up and actually produce either a drug compound or in metallurgy or whatever the research happened to be.
Yes, I mean, once it's on Etica, like there is no intellectual property. So let's say a company wants to use some results to produce a drug, they can use it without intellectual property. They can commercialize it right away. Yes, that's it.
And I think we're getting close to time here, so I'll do one final question from the AMA, and then we'll kind of close things out. But before I do that, I wanted to ask the other guy from Curecoin, Cygnus, if you had something you were trying to say earlier when you were muted. Cygnus?
Oh, well, I had a couple comments. One of them was about the heating issue, or not so much an issue in all cases, heating reutilization. There's been a couple of interesting projects outside of just a lot of the Curecoin team members heating their own homes, especially in the wintertime, obviously, with all the extra folding power. There was a project we touched base on and kind of made a little progress with a while back, where we used waste heat in an aquaponics system where it was growing shrimp and then food growing on top of the shrimp tanks,
Algae.
which was a pretty interesting reuse of the heating systems. But yeah, for people interested in, especially right now in the United States with wintertime, if you're chilly next to your computer, fire up some folding and you'll get a little bit extra heat.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, I wanted to introduce Cygnus. Cygnus is our founder, in case anybody didn't know. Yeah, that shrimp farm was a really interesting idea. It was in a warehouse, and I think the idea was to use the algae to produce methane on the back end and burn it to produce more power for the shrimp farm. So that was really mind-blowing at the time, and unfortunately that project kind of lost funding, or they reprioritized to something else crypto related, and I don't think the shrimp farm actually got built because of some zoning issues with the building. But There was also another idea that we had that was similar to that, and that was a quail farm. Somebody wanted to run a quail farm in Russia with folding at home equipment, kind of blowing the air in and taking the manure or feces from the quail and burning the methane from a digester and running the equipment. So it was kind of like this infinite loop. You obviously still have to feed the quail, but you can warm them up and you can use their waste products to run more folding equipment. So yeah, it's fascinating what people come up with in this sector.
So final question from the AMA, and then we're going to close things out. I'll just direct this to each project. We can kind of go in order. I think y'all have done a great job of introducing what it is that your project does. But let's talk about what is your project going to do? What's in the roadmap for the next couple of years? What are you looking forward to? Where do you see your project and DeSci in general going the next couple of years? What's on the horizon for folks to get excited about? So I'll just go in alphabetical. We'll go with Delta first.
Yeah, that's a good one. With Gridcoin, the thing that we're really excited to see is more growth in our members now that we have manual reward claim. Now that we have manual reward claim, we want to see more and more people taking it up and hopping onto volunteer computing to actually claim these rewards. And I think with the SCI in the mix as well now, it's going to make things very interesting because with the SCI, we have more events like these. We have more availability to get more people involved, and Gridcoin, the network itself, can contribute to things that the SCI is also doing as well. So I think the exciting thing in the future is seeing how MRC evolves, the manual reward claim, and watching the community grow.
And I think it's a great segue as well. It's like, this is the first time I think that in any formal way, all three of these projects have been in the same room together. And as DeSci grows, I think, the more collaboration and the more cooperation we can do, the farther we can push science and the more interesting kind of developments that can come out of the DeSci space. So I think it's really exciting. I know ETH Denver has a DeSci panel this year and last year as well. So it's exciting to see so much new stuff happen. And Kevin, you want to talk about Etica, and then we'll do Curecoin?
Yes. First, also to come back to what you have just said, I think also it's like DeSci. We have to I think it's in the coming years it will definitely become a major part of blockchain, I believe. And right now it's like there is like a separation between how projects here and the DeSci on Ethereum, but I think eventually we are all in the same direction. What we're trying to do, it's on the same movement. So I think if at some point all the projects we can have that kind of collaborations, I think this is good. For Etica, as I said, it's a truly community-driven project, and so the community is growing. If you want to join and to meet the people of the community, you can do it on Reddit or on Discord. Right now, it's where most of the community is. It's on Discord. So what I see for the coming years is that people in the cryptocurrency industry will become more, I think they will gain in expertise, and they will identify that DeSci has a lot of potential, and that the whole space is going to grow eventually. For Etica, it is truly a layer one currency. So Etica, what Etica can do for the whole ecosystem is that it can finance the research of open source research. So eventually, I think it's possible that we have the equivalent of DAOs that can plug on top of Etica to finance themselves with that intellectual property. Because right now, if they want to get some finance, they have to find a model that can suit with intellectual property. So eventually they need to have a patent and to monetize it. Otherwise, I don't see how they can finance themselves, except if they consider themselves as charities and they just raise money. But if they want a new system to finance themselves, Etica, they can have a look at Etica, because we are thinking about the future of financing research, and this is all about this. We are open to any project, anyone that wants to join. It's truly like open to anyone that wants to join. And also something important is that Etica has an inherent voting system, because this is what we use to vote on proposals. So any change on the blockchain, anything like this, is decided by the whole community through this system of voting. So I just initialize the project, but right now I don't have any control particular. If we want to make changes on the blockchain, anything like this, it has to be done through a voting system, and the whole community decide.
All right, and then to wrap up, Curecoin, talk about what you're looking forward to in the future.
All right, thanks, Alex. Before I continue with that, I want to just thank you really quick for putting together this event for the Science Commons initiative that you've created. This was a really great idea.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
We need more things like this. So, looking forward to the future. Obviously, growth is kind of the biggie. We've created a lot of folding. The team as a whole, all from large to small participants, has done record-breaking amounts of research in silico, and together with the entire Folding at Home initiative, there has been a large amount of very useful papers published, and basically just growth, bringing more people into the fold, as we say, getting more people to crunch, to participate, to become aware of what it is we're actually doing. And I think that kind of lends to my next point, is finding a way to kind of set these projects apart from the rest of the crypto communities. Projects like Curecoin, Gridcoin, Etica, obviously, these projects have been around for a long time. Curecoin and Gridcoin have been around since 2013, roughly, and still going. That in the crypto space is practically unheard of, unless you're talking about something like Litecoin, Bitcoin, or Purecoin. Most projects from back then, I think, are fizzled out now at this point. That's something that kind of hints at the difference between these kind of projects and a lot of the other ones going on in the crypto space. And I think kind of just furthering the the difference between us and them for the greater public is going to be very important, especially with a lot of the things that have transpired in crypto, with FTX being the most recent large obvious example. There's been a lot of rotten projects in crypto. We can sum it up with that without digging into it much. But over the course of the last roughly 10 years now, if you follow the history of these projects, with Curecoin, if you go to our website, we've got a decent list of our accomplishments summarized right on the website there. And basically, we just want to keep on building on that good history, and really show that we are a different project, and that we are a notch above what you will find with consistency, reliability, and versus a lot of other crypto-based projects. And it's not just crypto either; it's crypto and science. For me, it's going to be a lot about learning how do we set ourselves apart, how do we explain to the public, what we do is unique and useful and fun.
All All right. Thank you all for coming. Thank you everyone who is tuning in for the live stream, and you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you, Alex.